pleasure to present today. And first things first, I must admit it's a bit challenging speaking after Klaus, because I just got these slides. But I hope it won't be a death by PowerPoint. So bear with me. Few words about us, because it's a case study. Clicker is clicking. Clicker is not clicking. I swear. Oh, okay. Yeah, so we are Eurowings, an airline. So obviously our key product is the flight, but I would say not just the flight. It's also your entire experience as a customer. Basically, from the moment you think about, I want to travel somewhere, until the point you're safely back home and have nice memories about your trip. And in the last years, increasingly important part of this experience is the digital one. That's what Eurowings Digital is taking care of. So we are building an app, we are building a website, we are building a dedicated Eurowings holidays product. Back to the topic. And I must say this is the one that was quite emotional for me for several years. It was among my biggest challenges. So frequently in tech organization, it's not a big deal what kind of things you want to improve. Every other developer is mentioning them in your coffee chats. So big problems frequently are known. So either it's refactoring your legacy code base, either it's like finishing your multi-cloud strategy or migration or whatever might that be. The challenge could be to prioritize this and to make it happen among all the other business topics, all the product ideas, every wish your CEO has and other leaders in your organization. Doesn't sound familiar and relatable. Yeah, a couple of people do smile, so I guess I hit the right audience. All right, so here I'm gonna share some solutions that partially worked or even worked. So curious to hear about your experience, so then please leave me some questions or comments in Slido. And the first one is, okay, sometimes it's hard to fight for priority, so maybe we can just agree that, let's say, on 25% of our backlog, we will fill it in with tech topics. Does anyone have some similar agreements in your organization? Maybe raise your hand. Well, actually half of people. Well, that's among the solution that actually I believe sometimes does work and frequently does work, and I'm happy if it does for you. So this helps, but it has also several challenges. So let's say you plan your exciting legacy removal into this sprint or into this quarter or into this year. Then you start your sprint or quarter with something that is seen as more important, like some business topic, the urgent feature that was always wanted. This feature usually takes longer, then you extend your time developing it, then suddenly quarter is passing by, and then you are out of this, and you start rising, but hey, what about this percentage? And then you start the conversation, but why do we need it at all? Why we cannot just pick up another exciting feature? So you would have to justify this percentage or this fixed capacity allocation, at least from time to time. And here, what helps, I think, a lot is really like to share with your broader organization why we're doing it, what's the priority of the tech things. And what helps is to secure this to be a part of your company goals. Yeah, so here you can see that's basically like an actual North Star, we call it. It's basically the goals for the year that we set for ourselves, and it has 5 important pillars for Eurowings Digital. And 2 of those are really, really technical or team related, those that actually help us then to justify our tech improvements later on. And I find it like a perfect balance, so whenever your organization speak about the major goals, this already has some technical goals. So that's a very honest goal for ourselves, continuous delivery, so we are trying to get better and releasing faster. And actually our CEO, our business people, they all know what continuous delivery is. So we spend really some time sharing our goals, why we are trying to achieve them. And yeah, I think that is one helpful instrument to justify working on some tech improvements. You can say, okay, this is part of our yearly goals, and we all agreed that this is the most important thing. But how do you get to this point? How you actually justify some tech topic being put into your technical goals or into your company goals. I found it useful to see those technical things in two major categories. The one being system improvements. Let's say you want to go into multi-region architecture to improve reliability. It doesn't make your development more productive, it improves your reliability. So that's something I call system improvement. And then you have like a pure productivity thing, like we want to really refactor this massive part of our code base to get faster at it. That's typical productivity improvement, and there are some things like could be both, right? Could be productivity and system improvement, for example, improving your logs. So it can help you to resolve an incident faster, can help you also to develop faster already on your way through. And those two categories could be having different strategies how to justify the priority why those tech things are important. So there will be another talk in the afternoon about infamous CrowdStrike, but as a person from airline industry, I had to bring this up. So after this incident, what we've got a long spreadsheet of all the costs we had to bear as an airline during this incident. We have canceled flights, we have lost baggage, we have hotels that we have to pay, we have vouchers that we had to issue, we had some brand damage reputation as well, because some customers didn't get its Microsoft CrowdStrike and all this chain of events, they think it's on us. So there is basically a list of very direct costs that airlines had to bear with. And actually, I would argue that each and every business can construct this list already up front. Just think if your business is out for a day, what is going to happen? And I would recommend you actually also talking to your non-technical colleagues, like your brand marketing team, about this topic. Because maybe in each and every organization, there is a decent part of your brand marketing budget that is put into brand awareness, into some marketing campaigns, and this all costs money, and there is a value of your brand, and each and every outage is damaging that. So you could take really a good, precise number out of that to justify why you need to work on something that is improving your reliability or your system overall. The other category, I would say, is a bit more challenging. So this is productivity improvement. So I'm currently sharing the recent case studies that made available by the company called DX and Microsoft about developer productivity. And actually it helped me already a couple of times where I could convince some of my colleagues, especially not from tech area, like why some code readability is important or maintainability is crucial. So for example, this number on the left, in the left column, developers report being 42% more productive with a solid understanding of their code base. I used already a couple of times to really say, okay, but how much you're gonna get faster if we tackle this refactoring challenge? I say honestly, I don't know exactly, because like each and every refactoring is slightly different, but here's the number that industry is reporting on average, right? It doesn't like bring you exact number, but it gives like a feeling, okay, this is a real deal. And then you help also like your colleagues to understand, okay, we could spin up maybe another few developers or another team, or we could get existing team more up to speed. And this is how this also can be translated to something that is more like close to the real business number. Again, this is nothing that is very precise, but it helps. And also helps like maybe to put things in relation. So sometimes you improve your productivity by a bit, you have this feeling and you can put another productivity improvement in relation to that. So is it more impactful how you perceive it to be or less impactful? And I would say either you are working with this first category of tech topics that is a system improvement, or you're working with the second one that is productivity improvement. The end argument, so the killer argument is something like this. So this chart looks insanely good. And I was even thinking, it's a real one. It's a screenshot from like a business case for architecture improvement we constructed some weeks ago. And I thought, okay, it's so good. Maybe I should like really scale it down and put a different one that is maybe more average or realistic. But I decided actually to stick with this one to really show that those like technical modernization cases can be insanely productive in terms of return of investment. So this one is showing like 3 colorful bars. The one is an investment in gray. It shows that this investment will be amortized for 5 years. I mean, for people who work in enterprises or public companies, you may know term capex amortization. So that's a tricky way to spread some of the foundational investment into more years to come. If you want to learn more, like maybe ask me after this talk. And then there are two other bars. The one is like EBIT contribution that we expect to have from our engineering improvement, from our engineering team to be more faster. And yes, it's not a precise one, but it has some numbers behind it, and you could actually translate it into this. And the other one is coming from cost savings. That is our specific case, because we have like a severe vendor locking case. Not to get into details, we have an increasing price for several years to come. We want to tackle that, and overall, like if you construct it together, this is how it looks like. And this is the moment where like you get a lot of attention from your non-technical folks. You show them this. That's the language they understand, that's the language they love to speak. And suddenly, they are a lot interested about your technical details. So they want you, okay, explain me, how is it possible? How does it work? And you see this engagement in business people that you usually don't see if you start with technical details first. So on top of this iceberg is this like nice and fancy chart about EBIT contribution and cost of investment. And on the bottom is this complexity. So sometimes I would say it's super valuable to bring it a little bit up and show some of the complexity, explain, so that people in your team really understand what it's all about and how exactly you're making up this case. So what helps to achieve that? I would say the most important one is what I kind of copied from domain-driven design, a concept called ubiquitous language. Basically, in domain-driven design, ubiquitous language is basically a language you pick between business folks and engineering team. You use this for your class name, packages names, and you use in your conversation with your product people. So it's like universal language everyone understands. I would say this is also required for the good reception of your technical topics. So our language in tech can be quite heavy with abbreviations, with concepts. Like one thing you could call CI/CD, that is continuous delivery, continuous integration. And for engineers, it's all good. You could say continuous delivery. Next time you can say CI/CD, everyone is cool. But for business people, it's not. It's like, what was that abbreviation? I don't get it. And it also takes some energy for your tech part of organization also to start sticking to one term. You choose one term that is the most human understandable for the broader audience, and you stick to it. And then you build this awareness. So for example, we had a lot of conversation with business folks to explain like how exactly committing to production regularly helps to deliver software faster. So we explain them, they know, okay, there, that contributes to continuous delivery, go for it. If you need more test automation to have this continuous delivery to commit more often, yeah, go for it. So it's continuous delivery. Then the next sort of question comes, okay, how do we measure progress if we are moving in the right direction? There is a temptation, of course, to measure like engineering time or things like lines of code. But I would say there are more healthier way to look at engineering metrics. Also, similar companies, Microsoft, Diggs, shared a couple of other studies how to do engineering metrics. But actually, this is probably the next good conversation to have with your broader organization about the value of engineering metrics. So there are like two categories of engineering metrics as well. So quantitative metrics is the first one. The one is basically showing the numbers. One tip I found for myself extremely useful is to transfer these numbers from your engineering tool. Let's say you have like a monitoring system, Prometheus, Grafana, whatever it is. You have, for example, Jira that shows something. Instead of maybe showing Prometheus and Jira, you could transfer the numbers to the tool that's showing your important business metrics. Because these are important business metrics. They should live in a tool for important business metrics. In our case, that's Power BI. In your case, this could be Looker. It could be some other tool where you show like your BI and business dashboards. And then when you have your all hands meetings or like company performance review, they are all in one place. You're showing like report, okay, here is how we are doing with customer satisfaction. And here how we are doing with number of deployments. The other set of useful metrics is like more qualitative surveys. And there was a lot of skepticism to commit to some of the qualitative metrics in our organization. So one being developer experience survey that we used. So that's basically a survey that we run on some periodic basis that asks our engineers some questions like you can see here. How satisfied you are with testing experience, how satisfied you are with observability setup or with our local development experience. And this is among our primary KPIs that we actually measure as an organization on our continuous delivery journey. Like, yeah, we see some deployments, but we also want to see, does our engineering team sees any value in that? And you could imagine there could be some like bias that some people can be moody when they fill the survey, but actually if you have like large enough number of responses, you could clearly see an average and you could correlate this to the progress. So I would highly recommend to look into this direction. All right, and we started this conversation with the question around capacity allocation, fixed capacity allocation. So we don't do that yet. If it works for you, great, stick to it. So something else that we are doing is basically like a reverse tracking of this capacity in a way. So we see in retrospective how much our team spends on 3 main buckets in different colors. So the gray being those tech improvements I discussed. And those circles are all the different teams that we have. And this is like a monthly basis aggregation. And I think this also demonstrates why maybe sticking to 1% is not always optimal. Because in some teams, there could be more technical challenges right now. So they will have like their major part of the circle, grayish. And for some, maybe they need to really focus and deliver that important feature for the customer. They may not have grayish part at all. But it's useful in retrospective to have a look, okay, where we are spending our, like, roughly our time the most. And it's very, very average. So it's not like precise hour tracking, but quite average numbers from Jira. And the other tool, like light blue, is for, if I remember right, product evolution. So when we incrementally improve existing features, and blue is like when we bash new features into our product. And this is something our product team is interested a lot, because specific to our organization, we face challenges like justifying improving existing features versus building new. So that's what is important for us. So basically, to sum it up, to make a topic a priority in your organization, what I learned helps the most is, first of all, like bringing a common language, translating technical improvements into business outcomes, ideally, if you can, into this EBIT growth revenue contribution. Build some common language that everyone in your organization understands what are some of those technical things that you're working on. Yeah, then also like showing the transparency with your engineering metrics, showing some incremental progress, and then as much as possible, like putting the technical topics as people see other business topics. So for example, using the same system for your metrics, for your reporting dashboards, for your goals, being part of the broader organizational goals. I found this helps a lot. But are we perfect in these? Definitely not. There are always competing priorities. So I was glad and had an honor to share my learnings and lessons, and happy to hear maybe in the later breaks what was your experiences, and maybe you already have some questions for me. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you. And there's already 12 questions, so get in there. And obviously, if you've got a similar question, do vote it up. First question right at the top from Margaret. How do you measure the outcomes of system improvements as ROI?
Yeah, so maybe to reiterate what I was presenting earlier. So remember the story about, what was the name of this company with outage?
CrowdStrike?
CrowdStrike, yes. So the spreadsheet of losses when outage happens. So you look at this, you look at, for example, your current incidents and how many hours of outage you had this year. Then you think, okay, we had, maybe 20 hours of some different incidents and outages throughout the year or quarter, and you calculate how much it would have costed you, and then you say, okay, what if we introduce this improvement? Probably we will get 20% less because of our postmortems, because of the analysis that we did across the incident. We believe that how much we can improve it. And then you say, okay, we will reduce the revenue loss by this amount of money if we implement that improvement. That's one example to construct it.
Cool. Next one, so how granular is the time tracking needed for capacity allocation, metrics, where's that gone? And what's the overhead for developers or managers?
Yeah, as I mentioned, that's not a precise one, because we don't need precise number. We need to see some outliers. So the way we do it is basically Jira start time and end time. And we don't track hours like, okay, your ticket was started this Monday, it's closed like several weeks after. Each team can have their own use of Jira, so numbers between teams are not comparable with each other. But if, let's say, one team didn't close any single issue in Jira with like a label tech debt for several months, I think that might be a good reason to talk to that team to figure out, okay, why is that the case? Are they not seeing it as a priority, or maybe they're too overwhelmed with something else? No precise tracking that we have in place.
And then it's sort of linked to the first one, but that was about return on investment. Like, what metrics are good for system improvements, like end-to-end performance? We all know in terms of we need to speed our app up or we need to handle more traffic. What other metrics could be there?
Yeah, I would say like the number one that comes to my mind would be like your uptime or downtime, like for how many hours your system was out. I can see in the next question some handful abbreviation, SLIs, SLOs. I think they are very known in engineering community, but this is one of the examples where I would recommend to say just uptime or just come up with a simple language so that your people from other department, marketing or sales, can really understand what this improvement is about. Yeah.
Have you found, just as a follow-on, have you found like the businesses responded to different sort of metrics differently in terms of like how they can engage with the metric? Like uptime and downtime is one you can always scare a CEO with.
Yeah.
But like, is there any others you're like, they didn't respond that well, or?
I mean, something else that we use and talk about. So we talk about our employee engagement survey. So we can show, okay, how much people are happy or unhappy with some parts of our system. So that really they are asking for improvements there. You could see some hiring numbers. You could see some retention. You could see some risks. You could also like, when you get credibility after making some improvements, you can refer to the past. So you can say, okay, remember that case? We improved, for example, our like front-end styling composition. We changed our CSS in JS framework. So that was cool. That is similar. So like finding analogies, finding examples helps to talk about nearly every metric, at least for me.
Tech debt's been quite a hot topic in the community right now. That top question, what about technical debt? Why would a business have a goal of improving this?
Yeah, that's a good one. So maybe again, referring to some of the previous slides. I mean, if you come and say, okay, we need to work on technical debt, I mean, the CEO or your business peer will say, what's the business in it? Why? Therefore, I find it useful for myself to really try to estimate some numbers of an impact. And again, start with the business case. So kind of showing, okay, this is the magnitude of a problem that we have. This is how it stacks to other maybe problems in our technical backlog. That actually helps. Like you show the business impact first, then you speak about all the details later, like what exactly this technical debt is about. So what helps in this case is also like not picking up small independent things, but group your technical debt into some sizable packages that have a theme. Okay, for example, in our case, we are focusing on everything that helps us to release faster, so this continuous delivery pillar, and then I don't maybe have to explain exactly how like test automation helps us to be faster. You just say, okay, this is a part of this continuous delivery journey, and this is like what we discussed in the past about it.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for that talk. And I'm sure there were the 15 other questions there, so do grab them in the break.
Thanks for having me.